Okay, so I've had the Leica M10 for 6 months now, and today marks the day. This guy has been with me everywhere, and I've done so many great things with it. There's a wasp flying around the camera. The form factor of this camera is absolutely amazing, as I'm sure you can tell. It is built very well. It's an all metal construction. The tactility of it is great, and I love the button and dial layout. I love that they did use the ISO dial to actually sneak it into the camera, where you can pull it up and then push it back down, so it just kind of disappears into the body, and the lines look really good. And I know that's a weird thing, but we do love the way that our cameras look, and I think that's really important to the way that you use your camera. The look of the camera actually makes you want to shoot more. It evokes a feeling of like need almost to shoot with it, and I really appreciate that about this camera. And it also has to do with how small it is and inconspicuous this camera is. And I've decided to put the black dot on it to make it even more inconspicuous, because the red dot is a little gaudy to me, in my opinion. I just like it to be clean and black. As I've said in the past, rangefinders are great because for me, you can use both eyes and see what's coming into the frame, and also having a larger frame in the rangefinder itself to see more of what's in the frame. So there's just a lot of room to see what's going on in the elements that you're in. Another reason the rangefinder is important to me is because I do have a really big nose, so it hangs off to the side rather than being pushed up against the camera like on most traditional cameras. That's why I've been so drawn to the X100 series and the X Pro series from Fujifilm. So whenever I'm using this camera, I actually shoot in black and white on the camera, although it is raw, but the back of the screen is black and white. I do this a lot because it helps me to take away all the distractions of anything such as color or any other distractions that might run into the photo itself. The reason I do that, I think, is because it does help me see the compositions better, shapes and shadows the way that I want to. And yeah, it just helps me whenever I'm reviewing on the back of the screen. It's not my primary camera, so colors don't really bother me that much when I'm shooting it. So having that freedom with that way of shooting is really nice, and I think it does help me a lot with the framing and compositions that I have. Speaking of framing and composition, I do believe that I have gotten a lot better with framing and compositions and telling stories with this camera in particular, plus the 28mm lens by Thighpoc. I freaking love this lens. I keep the Viltrox UV filter on there all the time because it does protect against the glass. I don't want it to get bumped into anything, so I have to use that, and I really do like to use it. It hasn't messed any of my photos up. As you see, all the photos that I've taken over the last 6 months, they all, or most of them, are taken on this 28mm. I did review the 35mm by Thighpoc and the 50mm by Thighpoc. Both great lenses, especially the 50mm. That's probably my second favorite. All these photos are being edited with my presets for the Leica M10, so if you do own an M10 or any other camera that uses that sensor, definitely check out the link in the description below. I don't know what it is, but I do feel like I get a lot closer to people with this because, especially at weddings, because it's, I guess it's just the filling the frame with this is a lot different than using an autofocus camera for some reason. I'm not sure what it is, and it may be because it is so small and inconspicuous that I get closer to people naturally, but I have found myself being a lot closer to the action rather than not with my Sony cameras or my Fuji cameras. Like we've been taught forever, if it's not interesting, you're not close enough, and this has definitely helped me with that personally. And obviously using a 28mm and being close to something, you can feel that you're actually close to something. So it's just been really, really awesome with this lens. I freaking love this thing. It's tack sharp, and Thopok just did a really great job. I know that doesn't have anything to do with the camera, but for me, that's what my experience has been with, and it is phenomenal. Learning how to use the files or shoot the exposures correctly, aka underexpose a bit, so you don't blow out the highlights, has been a little bit of an adjustment for me because I have had so much dynamic range in the past to work with. But it does remind me of the M240 a bit, so it's not too far off from what I was used to previously. But my favorite way to shoot with this, and I don't shoot any other camera like this, but I use aperture priority with this so I can be quicker because I'm already doing a few different things as I change the aperture and focus. So there's a lot going on already. So having a system that can kind of help you out a little bit is nice. I know how to shoot manually. I just don't do it on this one completely. I have it on spot metering mode. So what it does is whenever you point, just like on my Canon kind of, is when you point at a subject and you hold down halfway on the actual shutter and then you recompose, it's gonna keep whatever was actually exposed for the center whenever you pressed it halfway down and held it. Now if I shoot it like this, it's going to go for whatever I'm pointed at then, whatever's dead center. So that's been really helpful for how I shoot this camera. Really what I've noticed the most is that it kind of pushes me to be more curious with subjects and play with light a little bit more. It just takes away all the technology almost that we're so used to and makes it a lot more primitive. And I think that's what the experience is with using an M rangefinder camera, is that it is primitive and it takes you back to the way that it used to be. If you've ever shot on film, it's the same thing and you don't have to look at your screen, and it feels very much more like you're there rather than shooting through screens, if that makes sense. So yeah, overall, I do not regret buying this camera whatsoever. I love it, and it still is my dream camera today, and I use it as my second camera for so many shoots, and I intend to keep doing the same thing. I would definitely recommend looking into Thopok lenses because they are really, really good, and they are a lot less expensive than the Leica Summilux lenses of the world. Oh, this is cool. Whoa. Dang, look at this. That's beautiful. Yeah, so I think that this camera is for a photographer, somebody that has, I don't know, kind of, maybe this is just me, I just kind of get tired of all the easy things that come with autofocus and Sony, and I love my Sony, don't get me wrong, it's a workhorse, but it's just too easy. And this fixes a lot of that problem. I mean, of course I could turn off the autofocus on that and just shoot manually, but then you don't have the optical viewfinder experience, rangefinder experience, the patch, and then of course the beautiful files whenever you do expose correctly. So yeah, it's been great, and I can't wait to show you guys more in the future. Thanks for sticking around, checking out these photos, and until next time, peace.